Can you believe that these perfectly crafted little buildings are so rare and were made with such love that they are in fact listed? So find out what the story behind them is and into which village I have very carefully stepped in just a moment. Coming up on today's show, a married couple want to find calm in the countryside as well as separate sanctuary from one another, but all under one roof. Our properties work hard to achieve exactly the right vision for one half.
How it stacks together to create two living spaces at the moment, I cannot compute.
Yeah.
Yet.
But it's full steam ahead for the other half of the duo. What do you think?
It looks great.
Wonderful. Come on, let's go.
I can't wait to get inside.
Today I'm in the Cotswolds, and this is the model village of Bourton-on-the-Water, a 1/9 replica of the real Cotswold village, which is just on the other side of that hedge. It was the brainchild of a local pub landlord who opened it to the public in 1937 to bring more tourists into the village. And it took 5 years to build. 5 years because this is the work of master craftsmen using limestone from the region and the famous stone tiles that are so typical of the Cotswolds. It's a real delight for all of us who grew up with Gulliver's Travels and Alice in Wonderland. And it also distills so much that is charming about this part of the world. Let's be under no illusions, buying property in the Cotswolds is an expensive business. When you think that the average price for a property across the country is around £283,000, well, if you want something similar in this region, then you're going to have to add an almost £200,000 hike to the price tag. Although if you go a little further out to the periphery, to places like Dursley or Stroud, away from the hotspots nearer to London, you can get a lot more for your money. So bearing that in mind, let's meet today's buyers and find out what drew them to this lovely part of the world. For the past 2 decades, Jill and Andy have lived in Kew, southwest London. Until their recent retirement, they both worked in education. They've been married for 40 years and have 3 grown-up children and 8 grandchildren.
We met 40-odd years ago when we were both students studying theology in Chelsea, and here we are 40 years on.
We married while we were students and we had our first baby while we were students.
Their current property is a semi-detached 1930s house, but it's fair to say their living arrangement is somewhat unconventional.
We live in the one house, but we've arranged it so that we've got separate, independent living areas, but access to one another. And that came about because 25 years into our marriage, we found that we were singing from different hymn sheets, but neither of us wanted to set up home permanently with another partner, and we both felt very strongly that we wanted to keep the family unit intact.
So our marriage is like our house, semi-detached.
Yeah.
The arrangement has worked well for them both over the years, so it's a property configuration they want to keep in their new home together.
As a family, we've learned a lot about what love is. You know, it's about giving one another the freedom to be who they are.
Despite enjoying their time living in Kew, they now feel it's time for a change.
When people come visit, they're very aware of the flight path to Heathrow. Sometimes it feels a bit hectic being in London with all the traffic. It would be nice to have a slower pace sometimes.
And they've chosen the calming Cotswolds in which to unwind.
There's a certain line I cross when we're travelling to the Cotswolds, and I feel, I've come home.
What we love about the countryside, I think, is the fact that it's peaceful, it's beautiful, there are large skies, and it just makes your soul sing.
As well as being closer to one of their sons in Birmingham, they hope to have more time to invest in their respective hobbies.
I paint, I do quite a lot of craft work, knitting and sewing.
I love listening to music and going to concerts. Playing the piano is something that has always been a panacea to the soul for me. And hopefully, if I've got more time in the Cotswolds, I might play a bit more than I do and be able to play some of the pieces that I struggle with now.
Although Andy in particular will miss the buzz of the capital on his doorstep, they're both looking forward to their next adventure.
I think it's the excitement of putting together another home.
We are more settled in what we're doing and where we are, I think.
And ready for a challenge.
And ready for a challenge,
A last challenge, probably.
Speak for yourself.
Our buyers want to focus their search in the Gloucestershire portion of the Cotswolds, around the centres of Moreton-in-Marsh and Bourton-on-the-Water. So we're all meeting up to nail the specifics of their move. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the Cotswolds.
Thank
Thank you.
We found you a little house.
I wish.
Yeah, maybe slightly over budget. But isn't it beautiful? The Cotswolds are so exquisite. That
absolutely
stone
lovely.
is magical.
Yes,
is.
it is. Beautiful.
Have you been on the ground? Have you done lots of house searches here?
We have. We've actually been looking for about 3 years. So
Really?
yes. We've looked at lots of floor plans, but only actually physically visited a few houses. But we're looking for something rather unusual.
You are indeed. We're all quite excited about this because I don't think it's the first time I've ever had to look for two houses in one.
Yes.
Are you aware that there aren't that many split houses on the market?
We are.
Yes, we are. And the issue has been that where they have been split, there's not parity of space. There's a large house, and then there's a small granny flat on the side of it. So it's about finding something that gives us an equal amount of space, really.
Andy and Q, you've got the upstairs and Jill, you're downstairs. Are you looking to replicate that, or do you want to swap?
I like being on the ground level, So
And you're happy with the
I'm
elevations?
happy being upstairs,
you put a
yes.
stair lift in.
When I get old and feeble, yes, I'll put a stair lift in.
Obviously, we haven't found you a property that's already split in this way. So what sort of compromises are you willing to make in terms of sort of work or realignment?
We really don't want a big project.
No.
We're quite happy to do some reconfiguration work.
But, obviously knocking a few walls down or reconfiguring a staircase...
Or adding a bit on, even.
Or adding
Yes,
a bit
which is
on,
what we have done to
is not out of the question.
How big is the house going to be overall? How many bedrooms?
We'd like somewhere with 2 bedrooms each, if possible, so that when the family come to stay, there's room for them.
And what about location? Do you want to be in the middle of a town or out in the sticks?
Not remote. We want, as we grow older, we'd like access to amenities and proximity to a bit of buzz, a bit of life and a feel of community.
And remind us of your budget.
900,000 top, because
Yeah.
that would include any renovation, any reconfiguration work.
Gosh, you've been looking for 3 years. That sort of fills us with dread. But we have found 3 lovely properties, which I think will offer you something, so be keen to see what you think. Let's go look. For a maximum budget of £900,000, including any renovation work, Andy and Jill want to create 2 homes in one. The challenge is to find them somewhere that offers private living spaces, ideally of equal size, and preferably with Jill downstairs. They'd like 2 bedrooms each for visiting family, as well as their own living room and kitchen. After a vibrant life in London, they're both keen to be part of an active community. We found 3 contrasting Cotswold homes, which we hope will give them the versatility and harmony they're after. But I'll keep them guessing as to what the houses are worth until the end of each tour. Then for last orders, we'll be opening not 1, but 2 doors when we reveal our remodelled mystery house. We're kicking off our property search in Gloucestershire, 8 miles north of Moreton-in-Marsh and 14 miles north of Bourton-on-the-Water, in one of the area's most elegant market towns, Chipping Campden. In the Middle Ages, this town prospered from a lucrative wool trade, and the many grand, honey-coloured limestone buildings are still a feature along the high street to this day. The arched market hall, dating from the early 17th century, is an elegant centrepiece. The property I want to show Jill and Andy is on the edge of town, just a short stroll from all the local amenities. Here is our first offering.
Right.
The house dates back to 1963, so the whole estate was built in the 60s, using the Cotswold stone. What are your impressions from the outside?
I like it. Yes, it's a pleasant-looking house.
Probably bigger on the inside than it looks on the outside.
Obviously, we're immediately thinking about sort of separating it out for you guys. In this one, we're thinking of splitting it upstairs and downstairs.
That's fine. It looks from the outside as though it would be perfectly feasible as an upstairs-downstairs division.
Should we look inside?
Oh, yes, let's.
Built in the early 1960s, this detached Cotswold stone house has been extended twice, most recently to the side. There are a number of options for Andy and Jill to divide this house, starting with 2 separate entrances, one directly into the kitchen and the other into the central hallway, which I'm taking them through to start the tour. Come on, let's have a look. So we're going to be looking at the ground floor first, so because you said you prefer the ground floor.
I do, yes.
They've extended out over into the kitchen here, and they have extended back here, so they've made themselves a lot more space.
It's got the nice light, airy, spacious
It's got the light,
look
airy
that you
feel.
like.
I like the size of the space as a kitchen living space is good.
Come over here and you can see, so this is an extension that they put on in the 90s.
Yes,
Give them some space at the side.
that's a good door for me.
Yeah, so you've got another...
And my entrance.
Exactly, so you've got an entrance here, because we went through the hallway.
Yes. It's a nice light hallway, but I think we'd have to reconfigure the stairwell.
What we thought you'd have to turn the stairs one
Yes.
more time.
Yes.
So the front door would be yours.
Yes.
So you could come in the front door and just go straight upstairs. And then there would be a wall, so you'd have the back door and this door.
Yes, yes, good.
With a utility space off the kitchen, this floor also offers a snug dining area, separate study, downstairs cloakroom, and a large living room just across the hallway. Come in, I'm liking your thinking on the hoof, that's very good. So this is the living room at the moment.
Yes.
But the speed at which you're kind of redesigning this may be something else.
It's light, the size is just about right.
If we're thinking about reconfiguring, which we have to, for me, this would have to be the bedroom. Next door, where you've got the toilet, which could become the shower room, because you could extend that.
Do you agree?
Well, I had been thinking if I kept this as a bedroom, because the current kitchen and living space is a nice size of living space for me, then the little bit... The snug at the back could become my studio.
It could be, yeah, that would be a really good thing.
I'm loving it. It's a lot of thinking, and obviously you've done this before. You're way ahead of me, but I'm quite interested to see what you think of upstairs.
Okay.
Because he's quite animated about your floor. I don't know what it's going to be like upstairs.
You'll expect fireworks up there.
It's great that they already have plans for how they might reconfigure this space to make it work for Jill, turning the living room into a main bedroom, adding a shower to the cloakroom, and making the snug into a possible art studio. But what will Andy make of the two further upstairs floors that could form his part of the house? A top floor currently provides two small bedrooms in the eaves, one of which is en suite, whilst the middle floor offers two double bedrooms served by a family bathroom, as well as what is currently the large master bedroom. All right, this is the master with its own ensuite going over the extension.
Well, this is a nice room. It's a nice size. Kitchen, possible kitchen?
Yeah, I mean, this would make a possible, well, the only kitchen living area, really, with the bathroom, and then the other two bedrooms would have to be knocked together to make one living space.
Living space?
Well, yeah, because I've got a piano somewhere.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
So it would have to go, if anywhere, would go there.
Essentially, here you've got 5 bedrooms. All of those are stud walls, so you can knock around everything on this floor and upstairs as well, if you wish. But let's go outside and talk about the outside and the price.
Okay.
So they could create a self-contained home for Andy by turning the middle floor here into a kitchen and living area, keeping the top floor as sleeping quarters. But I'm sensing that they aren't entirely convinced. At least the outside space is less problematic, as they're happy to share a garden, which in this case is secluded and offers mature beds and paved areas. Tuck ourselves in the corner here. It's not a huge garden.
Well, that's OK. We don't want a huge garden. In fact, it's a nice-sized garden for us. I like the little vegetable garden. That's nice.
OK, so I know there are issues upstairs, but what do you think a 5-bedroom property in the Cotswolds costs?
It's probably about 795,000.
Andy?
Well, I don't think it's that much. I think it's 750.
Well, in this instance, you're both wrong. It's actually cheaper. It's on the market for £675,000.
All right.
Well, that gives a lot of scope.
So the reason we showed it to you, because it would give you a big pot of money to do whatever you wanted to.
Yeah, OK.
Good. Well, go in and have another look round, just to sort of get your bearings and to have a little chat. And then I'll meet you at the front and we can go on to the next one.
OK, thank you.
Under budget by £225,000, this detached, extended 1960s house would leave plenty for Andy and Jill to make alterations to divide the space. Currently offering a large kitchen diner, 3 additional reception rooms and 5 bedrooms spread over 3 floors, the property is located on the edge of a popular Cotswolds market town with excellent facilities.
I like the house. I like the garden. I can see how, with a bit of tweaking, the downstairs space, which would be my part of the house, would work well for me.
Downstairs obviously works for Jill. The problems in this house lie upstairs. I cannot see the upstairs being reconfigured to my specifications, and that's got to be important, making such a big move.
Good. All done with your deliberations?
Yes.
Yes.
Time for another house, though.
Yes, good, OK.
Good.
Follow me. Gentle countryside and pretty stone towns and villages have drawn Jill and Andy to the Cotswolds. But today they are going to discover some of the area's royal heritage with a visit to a 15th century castle. Set in an estate of 1,200 acres, including 9 stunning landscaped gardens, Sudeley Castle is the private home to Lady Ashcombe and the final resting place of a 16th century queen, Henry VIII's 6th wife, Catherine Parr.
Hello, I'm Andy. Very pleased to meet you.
Hello, Jill.
Oh, welcome to Sudeley Castle.
Though best known for her royal marriage, Catherine Parr was a great intellect and a keen scholar. Her ability is evident in the numerous documents housed in the castle's collection, and guide Derek Maddock has offered to tell their story.
Well, everybody assumes that Catherine Parr is just the 6th wife of Henry VIII. She's much more important than that. She was intellectual, very gifted. She even ruled the country for a short time when Henry was in France. And she wrote books. This is the first queen to write and publish books. So here we have her prayers and meditation written while Henry was alive. Lamentations of a Sinner in 1547. Fascinating sort of documents. And it says at the bottom, Catherine the Queen, KP, which is how she liked to sign herself.
Soon after the death of her husband, King Henry VIII, Catherine remarried in secret. This elopement was a love match with Thomas Seymour, brother of Henry's late Queen Jane Seymour.
She wanted to marry Thomas Seymour before Henry intervened, but you don't argue with the king. And we also have a love letter she wrote to Thomas Seymour. So, for instance, down here we've got, "For as truly as God is good, my mind was fully bent the other time I was at liberty to marry you before any man I know." She sees this man as the love of her life, and possibly he was.
But the love marriage was short-lived. Within a year she died, aged 36, most likely from complications during the birth of her only child, a daughter, and was buried in the grounds. There are, of course, rumoured sightings of a wandering ghost, but in the castle chapel her tomb is very much on full view.
This is not the original tomb. The church and the castle were both slighted after the Civil War, and effectively the body disappeared. And then some tourists hired a tenant farmer to dig for it. And they found a bit of an alabaster tomb, and on top of the alabaster tomb was a little plaque saying, "Here lieth Queen Catherine." And eventually, when the Dent family bought the church, they decided to rebuild this completely and build a proper tomb like this wonderful thing that we have in front to commemorate Queen Catherine.
The castle also houses some curious historical exhibits, which will put Jill and Andy's ingenuity to the test.
So what do you think of that?
Well, I think it's a bed warmer.
Well, it's obviously for warming something because you have to unscrew that, but you can also hold it like that.
On the right tracks, but it's not a bed warmer.
It's not a bed warmer.
No.
Is it a lap warmer? Your hand
Go down a bit.
warmer? Oh, feet warmer.
Foot warmer in a coach. A foot warmer in a coach.
Oh, wow.
Now, this one is possibly the weirdest.
It's very ornate, isn't
It's
it?
quite heavy, so I'll keep holding it.
I've got no idea what this is.
Is it for winding wool?
Not for winding wool, but think of something we would consider quite ordinary inside there, the way you need it to turn.
It's not an hourglass, is it?
An hourglass, yeah. This bizarre thing was designed to keep a sermon short. In here, once the hourglass had run out, the priest had to be quiet.
After a fascinating insight into Sudeley's impressive heritage, it's definitely time to return to finding Jill and Andy their own splendid residence. For our second property, we're travelling less than a mile from Chipping Campden to the hamlet of Broad Campden. Here, locals can enjoy the atmosphere of the 17th century country pub. Cotswold stone cottages are surrounded by rolling farmland, largely given over to sheep, and accessed via a network of bridleways and footpaths, including the Heart of England Way. We're heading to the edge of the hamlet, where the 4-bedroom detached house I want to show them is located. This is a very different offering.
Yes,
Yes,
it
it
is, isn't
is.
it?
So this is an altogether more spacious
Okay.
affair. This started off as in a 1950s bungalow, and then it's been extended actually quite recently in the last 10 years or so up into the roof, and there's little bits and bobs like the porch.
I like the approach to the house. I like the frontage, the garden. It's lovely.
We couldn't decide how you would split it, so I'm not going to chase you in one direction or other, but you could go left, right, you could go up and down.
Okay.
Okay.
Should we take a look inside?
Oh, yes.
First impressions are encouraging, and I hope this option has more of the flexibility Jill and Andy are looking for. Come in, beautiful parquet floor.
Yes, lovely. Notice that
Throughout.
straight away.
Yes.
Yes, this is a nice space.
But obviously this is their living room with these beautiful French doors
Lovely.
out into a very expansive garden. And what happened is that this was a separate bedroom, and they've knocked this through. So officially you have another room with another set of French doors.
Okay.
So, of course, you could go upstairs, downstairs, but this house, unlike the other one, offers the possibility of going left and right.
The fact that you have the potential to either go up, down, or left and right is really interesting. But it's the logistics then of how you do that.
Good. Well, let's continue the talk so it'll become clearer. Here's the kitchen. Lovely range, lovely
Very
units.
nice, yes. I like the style of the units.
Nice and airy again.
It is.
And then it kind of flows through into this. I don't know, this is an extension that they put on, actually, but a very charming one. There's lots of double windows out into the garden.
There are.
Yeah.
In between the window and the door, there was a door, so it would be easy to reinstall.
Okay.
All right.
Might be possible to put a staircase at this end of the house.
It might. Yes.
So the ground floor, I mean, it's essentially a great big long suite of rooms, which you could easily divide in two, but you could have this as your floor, in which case we need to look at the top floor.
Yep.
The ground floor also has 2 bedrooms, one currently used as a study, and both share a Jack and Jill bathroom. There's a cloakroom, a utility area, and a double garage. As these are mainly stud walls, with some expert advice it would be fairly easy to reconfigure the layout. But could living side by side work for Jill and Andy, or would they prefer to keep an upstairs-downstairs arrangement once they see the upper floor? So what we've got upstairs really is all the loft space taken out and skylights all along,
Okay.
from one end all the way to the other. They have it set up so there's 3 bedrooms. This is the master suite.
Yes.
I love the whole
Yes.
feeling of light and space across the top of the building,
yeah.
which makes me think that, you know, the up-down
Might be better.
might be better.
Yeah.
If we were to keep it as an up-down, then I would keep this as the bedroom at the end. It would be a shame to spoil this because it is a beautiful, light, airy, large bedroom with plenty of storage.
This house, I think, has a lot more kind of flexibility.
Yes,
It
it
does,
has.
much more so than the last. But we have always said we need a garden that's easy to maintain. We've got to be careful not to get carried away.
Let's look at the garden and talk about that then.
Okay.
So far, it seems that this property has something for both of them, so it just remains to see if the generous garden with its heated plunge pool will be more than they bargained for. It is a big garden.
It is a big garden. Very beautiful.
It's about 3/4 of an acre, which is a big plot.
Yes, it
Yes.
would take a lot of maintenance.
Yes. Once we know the price and, you know, what we need to spend on the house, there might be room to have somebody come in and look after the garden for us.
Well, it's on the market for... Oh, you're trying to trick me. But that's your job. What do you think the price is?
I think it's got to be much nearer the top of our budget, 850,000.
No, it's less than that. It's about 800,000, I would say.
It's actually just a shade under what you said. It's on at £798,000.
Wow, that's good.
That's a good price.
That gives us a bit to play with.
Do have a walk around, because this is a property where you do need to kind of have another look, and I'll see you at the front.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Phew, I think we're much closer to the mark with this one. It's a tricky challenge to find this property. And if the big garden is the main bone of contention, I think we did pretty well. £102,000 below budget, this extended property would leave a healthy sum for our semi-detached couple to create separate living spaces, side by side or on different floors. With 3 reception rooms, a kitchen and 2 bedrooms on the ground floor, as well as a further 4 rooms split into 2 suites upstairs, the house could provide a real balance of accommodation. And although the garden is larger than they hoped for, there should be enough left over to pay for a gardener.
I don't think there's a huge amount of work to be done in this place to make it suitable for me and Andy. Certainly downstairs, from my point of view, the changes would be cosmetic.
I love this long, open, galleried feel to this.
This space is very much what you've always hankered after.
Yeah, I love the
loft look.
The loft look, yeah. I think it'll be fantastic. Having looked at it, the up-down solution is the better one because it gives both of us the space we require without really damaging the intrinsic architecture of the building too much.
Hello.
Hello.
All done?
All
Yeah, I
done,
think so.
Excellent. Good. So that's our last house for the day. Let's go and find a little place to rest and relax.
Good idea.
Morning has broken on the second day of our fascinating house search with married couple Jill and Andy. With their £900,000 budget, they want to swap the cramped chaos of London for the charm of the Cotswolds. But the aspiration is for completely independent living under one roof. Still to come, the mystery house has us positively bursting with excitement.
I've got to contain myself.
No, don't. Let it go. Let it all out. And I learn how to transform the local harvest into a brand new scent. Wonderful. We'll take it straight into production. Conquer the world with Ode Appleton. It's the second day of our property hunt here in the Cotswolds, and one thing became clear to me yesterday is that Andy and Jill, they are the experts when it comes to putting all the pieces of this particular property puzzle together. So the mystery house gives them lots of pieces, but without the big garden piece and the out in the countryside piece. But how on earth they are going to configure them, I don't really know. But watch this space. Where do you think we might be going for the mystery house?
You've shown us two, in Cotswolds terms, relatively recent builds. I think the mystery house might be an older, more traditional house. I don't think you'd be cruel enough to show us a plot of land on which to build, although you might.
For our mystery house, we're heading 12 miles east of Moreton in the Marsh, into the Oxfordshire section of the Cotswolds and the village of Hook Norton. The village is home to a famous local brewery, housed in a grand late Victorian building, producing the renowned Hooky cask ales. There's also a museum telling its brewing history. But the village is no museum, as community spirit is alive and well here, with many amenities to hand, including a post office, shops, and a choice of 3 public houses. Right in the centre of the village, a former pub has been transformed into this substantial property, our 7-bedroom mystery house. Hopefully, it will fulfill our couple's quest to create 2 homes in one. Ooh, it's the mystery house. I'm very excited about this one.
Yes, I am too.
You are too?
I am, because I love the immediate environment. It's beautiful, and I love the outside. That's the look I had in mind.
It's an exceptional building. Quite excited to show you around, largely because it's got 2 front doors.
I've seen that.
see that.
Come on, go.
We were like, oh, it's got 2 front doors. Show it to them. Show it to them. What do you think?
It looks great.
Wonderful. Come on, let's go.
Can't wait to get inside.
Dating back to the 17th century, the mystery property was a pub until 2012, when it was bought and converted into a luxury home. And the unique pedigree of the building is such that it has been given a Grade 2 listing. Woohoo! Here we come.
Wow.
Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? I've got to contain myself.
No, don't. Let it go. Let it all out. You've got these amazing York stone flagstones.
Yes.
An incredible fire. The fabric of the building is listed, so that
Okay.
means things like the fireplace, the beams.
Yes.
You have to work kind of hand in glove with the
Yes.
planning officer, so you could do things, but you'd have to get them
Yes.
on board.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you ain't seen nothing yet. It gets better and better. Follow me. Here you go.
This is beautiful. Oh, look.
Oh, well.
Oh, wow.
This is absolutely beautiful.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
It is.
I just hope we can create equal space for you.
This is, if you like, the sort of atrium of the house. Watch the kitchen, the snug, lots of storage comes off
Be still my beating heart.
Let's have a peek in the kitchen. Come in. More of the quarry tiles.
Wow.
And more beams.
I've really got to rein myself in. Yeah.
I know.
Is this pressing all the buttons?
Yeah.
Well, there's nothing more you can say, really, is there? I mean, it's just stunningly beautiful.
Yeah.
As we've discovered with the two properties yesterday, it's the upstairs that often gives the difficulty.
Well, the upstairs is rather special, so let's have a look. The ground floor also includes a dining room with an open fire, a cosy snug, a study, a walk-in pantry and a utility room with WC. But with accommodation that spans around 3,500 square feet, there's plenty more to house Andy on the two upper floors, which were once the living quarters for the publican. Round your head.
Okay.
This is the master bedroom.
It's a lovely room, isn't it? Lovely view of the garden.
Yeah.
And right next door is a sort of the master ensuite, but actually that was, at some point, an upstairs kitchenette.
Right.
So it has all the plumbing for that. So this could be your living space, kitchen, dining area.
Yes, if that were to be put back to a kitchen, it's going to be a very small kitchen. That's not an issue. I can see the beauty of the whole house, but how it stacks together to create two living spaces at the moment, I cannot compute.
Yeah.
Yet.
On the other side of the master bedroom, another good-sized bathroom serves 3 further bedrooms. One a bright double, another currently set up as a twin, and the last also a large double with an impressive feature fireplace. OK, I know this is all probably a bit overwhelming. What are your thoughts?
It's obviously got lots of potential, and it's all been beautifully done.
I just think it's beautiful.
Yeah.
But I know it's got to be right for Andy too.
There are 2 staircases up to the top floor. The first of these leads to 2 further bedrooms and a bathroom, whilst the second staircase serves yet another double bedroom. This makes a total of 7 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms on the upper 2 floors. By using the second doorway from the street and blocking off a couple of rooms from the stairs, Andy could have private access to these 2 upper floors that would then form his part of the house. They could also reinstall a kitchen to create a large living space on the middle floor, although this plan does give Andy more floor space than Jill. But if the house is a conundrum, outside is more straightforward, where an enclosed, easy-to-maintain plot has a wall running through it. So this garden's a bit more manageable.
Yes, much better.
Yes.
Much better.
A big smile. OK, the big question is, can you afford it? What is the price?
I'm going to be really hopeful that it's £5 under our top budget.
I think it's at the top of our budget. I think it's slightly over at 9.10.
Well, in this instance, we're not that nasty. It is on the market for £895,000.
Right, OK.
And the owner has said that she'd be open to offers. You would still have to do some knocking around.
Yes.
So go in and have a good old look around, and I'll see you at the front.
OK.
£5,000 below budget and open to offers, this listed mystery house has the space to give them 2 good-sized homes, subject to planning consent. It has 7 bedrooms, 4 reception rooms, a kitchen breakfast room, and plumbing for a second kitchen on the middle floor. Plus, there's a low-maintenance walled garden, and it all lies in the heart of a popular Cotswold village.
I'm having to rein myself in because I love this property. The space that would be mine is practically perfect. I don't think I could improve on it. It's just perfect.
When I first saw the mystery house, I was really quite excited. It immediately created an emotional response. I cannot say whether I feel it is a house that could serve both Jill and I, because the upstairs is much more complex in terms of how you would reconfigure it.
Oh, look at that. Double doors. It's all coming together. How are you feeling?
Oh, great.
Yes, so it's a stunning house,
Oh,
but
beautiful.
a complex problem.
It is, isn't it? Well, let's go and find somewhere to think about it.
Okay.
Much of the Cotswold landscape, from dry stone walls to pretty market towns, is a legacy from the Middle Ages, when the area was at the centre of the wool trade. But changing demands over the centuries have led farmers to find new ways to make a living from the land. I'm meeting Charlie Bird, who's a third-generation farmer and who is championing one of the most recent additions to the rolling Cotswold fields, something perhaps more commonly associated with the south of France, lavender. So how long have you been growing lavender? When did you start?
We started growing lavender in 2000, so it's still a relatively new crop in some ways for us.
And was that a departure from what you did before?
Yeah, we were then, and still are, arable farmers, but lavender started as a little bit of a diversification on the farm, and now it's become the most important crop on the farm, and the rest of the farm is now a bit of a sideline.
So talk me through the kind of seasons.
Yeah, full bloom will be in about a week's time. We'll start harvesting in the last week of July, and it'll take us about 2 weeks to complete harvest.
Because it's the oil that you're looking for, that's the kind of key ingredient, isn't it?
Yeah, the oil's a very important thing for us, yes. Lavender produces oil as a reaction to drought, stress, so what we're after really hot, dry conditions before harvest. Worst case scenario is very heavy rain, and we have had total crop failures. For example, this field here, we had 5 inches of rain the day before we were going to harvest a few years back, and that just knocked all the flowers off completely.
And the whole thing lost?
Yeah, no harvest whatsoever.
Despite the vagaries of the English weather, the farm now grows 3 different varieties of lavender. 500,000 plants set out over 70 miles of rows yield up to 1,500 litres of oil a year.
Each plant will produce about 1.5 mils of oil. So there's 10 mils of oil there. That will come from around 6 plants.
So what happens to the oil? Where are your main kind of outlets?
We use about 20% of the oil we produce ourselves through the farm here. We have a shop on site. We also sell off-site to soap makers, candle makers, perfumers and people like that.
So we're going to go and visit the perfumier in Bourton-under-Water, just around the corner. So do you supply to them?
We do supply to them, yeah. They use our lavender in some of the products that they make.
Excellent. So we will see your oil at work.
Great.
Very nice to meet you. Good luck with the harvest. Hope it doesn't get washed away.
Thank you very much.
10 miles from the lavender fields is the perfumery in Bourton-on-the-Water. Hello, John. Morning. It was founded in the 1960s by the father of John Stephen, the current nose behind the family business, who sends his products as far afield as Russia and the Middle East. So Charlie's oil is world-class oil, is it?
Well, English lavender oil is unique, and it's very, very different from any other lavender in the world, and very highly prized in perfumery.
John's going to demonstrate the qualities of this local lavender oil by creating a new scent for men.
First of all, we would plan out the fragrance, decide what oils you're going to put in the fragrance, decide on the amounts, and then mix it together. We'd normally start with the base. Base notes evaporate very slowly. If you have a lot of high proportion of base notes, your perfume will last a long time, but it's going to be rather heady.
Doesn't everybody want their perfume to last a long time?
Ideally, but you know, everyone wants a loaf of bread to stay fresh for a month. It doesn't.
Good analogy. Vetiver, that's my favourite scent.
Right, yes, very nice. Let's get the Vetiver from Haiti.
Wow.
We'd better put Charlie's oil now, haven't we? So that's that one. A good middle note to go with your lavender fragrance would be the solvent-extracted lavender, which is a lavender absolute. And then we could do with some bergamot as a top note, because that lightens and freshens it and brings it through. Or we could put 5 drops of each and 20 of the bergamot.
Cool.
And see how it goes.
With the scents selected, the drops of essential oil are mixed together with ethanol to create a 10% solution.
Have a smell of that.
Yes, I smell a lot of bergamot.
Goes well, very well with the lavender, though, doesn't it?
Wonderful. We'll take it straight into production. Conquer the world with Ode Appleton. Thank you, John. It's a real pleasure. Have a good smelly day.
Okay.
It feels like the Mystery House has really brought this double pot to the boil. Particularly Andy, I think, is exhausted after all that resketching and replanning where everything's going to go. So it'd be interesting to see what they have to say now they've had a moment to sit down and rest.
This is a very
very nice, isn't it?
It certainly is.
What's your status right now? How are you feeling about the houses?
House number 2, initially I was very sceptical about because it looked like a bungalow, but actually inside the potential was fantastic because you would have to do very little downstairs to create a separate living space. And certainly upstairs, I liked that galleried feel of that, and that, again, would take very little configuration. The biggest drawback on property number 2 was the size of the garden, which was, for us, would have been unmanageable and just a burden.
And what about the mystery house?
Oh, I fell in love with the mystery house. Typical Cotswold feel.
It was exceptionally beautiful and would have worked well as a family house. The upstairs, which is kind of higgledy-piggledy, is less easy to rearrange. So there are lots of things that we need to take into consideration. Although I think both our hearts are saying, buy me, you know.
So what happens right now that we've seen all the houses and the dust has settled? What's the next step?
Have a careful look at the floor plan of the mystery house and then move forward from there.
Thank you so much for coming on the show, because it's been a really fascinating project to kind of work through with you. And do let us know if you manage to square the circle and find this place.
We will, and thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
It's been a joy. What an intriguing house search, and what an intriguing dynamic there between Andy and Jill. I wonder whether they'd ever find a house that completely resolved what they were looking for in one building. Though I have to say, we did very well, and we found 2, I think, that offered them great new ways of thinking about that particular compromise. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I hope you'll join us next time for more Escape to the Country. If you would like to escape to the country in England, Scotland, Wales or Northern Ireland and need our help, please apply online at bbc.co.uk/be-on-a-show. Can you believe that these perfectly crafted little buildings are so rare and were made with such love that they are in fact listed? So find out what the story behind them is and into which village I have very carefully stepped in just a moment. Coming up on today's show, a married couple want to find calm in the countryside as well as separate sanctuary from one another, but all under one roof. Our properties work hard to achieve exactly the right vision for one half.
How it stacks together to create 2 living spaces at the moment, I cannot compute.
Yet.
But it's full steam ahead for the other half of the duo. What do you think?
It looks great.
Wonderful. Come on, let's go.
Can't wait to get inside.
Today I'm in the Cotswolds, and this is the model village of Bourton-on-the-Water, a 1/9 replica of the real Cotswold village, which is just on the other side of that hedge. It was the brainchild of a local pub landlord who opened it to the public in 1937 to bring more tourists into the village. And it took 5 years to build. 5 years because this is the work of master craftsmen using limestone from the region and the famous stone tiles that are so typical of the Cotswolds. It's a real delight for all of us who grew up with Gulliver's Travels and Alice in Wonderland. And it also distills so much that is charming about this part of the world. Let's be under no illusions, buying property in the Cotswolds is an expensive business. When you think that the average price for a property across the country is around £283,000, well, if you want something similar in this region, then you're going to have to add an almost £200,000 hike to the price tag. Although if you go a little further out to the periphery, to places like Dursley or Stroud, away from the hotspots nearer to London, you can get a lot more for your money. So bearing that in mind, let's meet today's buyers and find out what drew them to this lovely part of the world. For the past 2 decades, Jill and Andy have lived in Kew, southwest London. Until their recent retirement, they both worked in education. They've been married for 40 years and have 3 grown-up children and 8 grandchildren.
We met 40-odd years ago when we were both students studying theology in Chelsea, and here we are 40 years on.
We married while we were students, and we had our first baby while we were students.
Their current property is a semi-detached 1930s house, but it's fair to say their living arrangement is somewhat unconventional.
We live in the one house, but we've arranged it so that we've got separate, independent living areas, but access to one another. And that came about because 25 years into our marriage, we found that we were singing from different hymn sheets. But Neither of us wanted to set up home permanently with another partner, and we both felt very strongly that we wanted to keep the family unit intact.
So our marriage is like our house, semi-detached.
Yeah.
The arrangement has worked well for them both over the years, so it's a property configuration they want to keep in their new home together.
As a family, we've learned a lot about what love is. You know, it's about giving one another the freedom to be who they are.
Despite enjoying their time living in Kew, they now feel it's time for a change.
When people come visit, they're very aware of the flight path to Heathrow. Sometimes it feels a bit hectic being in London with all the traffic. It would be nice to have a slower pace sometimes.
And they've chosen the calming Cotswolds in which to unwind.
There's a certain line I cross when we're travelling to the Cotswolds, and I feel, I've come home.
What we love about the countryside, I think, is the fact that it's peaceful, it's beautiful, there are large skies, and it just makes your soul sing.